Welcome in, guys. We got MLB opening day going on today. Apologize, we're a day late with this episode. As you guys might have seen across socials, we're shooting some content. Went on the Skinny with Joey Merlino. If you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you go check that out. If you're one of the guys coming over from that podcast, maybe you saw us there. Welcome into the Cash It Pod. My name's Ben. This is John, and we're going to go through a little bit of an MLB season preview. And, John, before we get going here, I think maybe you should tell people kind of our methodology a little bit with baseball. We don't have to repeat ourselves all season to kind of know what we're looking at.
Value. If you want to explain it, you got to take value every day. For the guys that have been with us and for the guys that may have watched the Skinny podcast, we talk about taking value every day. And I equated if you're giving me the wrong odds every day, I can still lose that particular game. But over the course of the season, I'm going to beat you. Again, there are 3 ways to make a 4 when you're shooting dice. There are 6 ways to make a 7. That's why the odds are 2-1. So if you shoot dice in a casino, they're going to give you 2-1. If you're going to give me 3-1, I'm going to beat you. I may 7 out that one time, but over the course of 162 games, I'm going to win enough of those games to cover the spread. And then that 2-1 analogy might be what we're going to be doing with the Dodgers because they're already an over 200 favorite. St. Louis Cardinals, as of right now, you can take plus 210. We'll get into that particular game. But again, it's all about value. Pitchers have a lot to do with it. I brought up for you Philly guys out there, you guys, the older guys may remember, Steve Carlton used to call him Lefty. 1972, Steve Carlton won 27 games for a Philly team that only won 59 games the whole season. So you can see how important pitching is to baseball. And that will change and dictate the lines on most games based on your pitching. You want to stay away from the hot pitches and the hot teams. That's what you want. You want to bet against them when they're cold. Too many guys out there. The Dodgers lose 2 in a row. They got to win this one. No, we're the opposite. We want to catch the team when they go into a struggle, a slide. Every team, the 27 Yankees, everybody's going to have that little streak, that little stretch that they're struggling. That's where we want to catch the value against the good teams. We want to bet the bad teams. The Oakland A's had a historically bad season last year, 50 wins. Meanwhile, they put together a couple of nice little runs. I think 1 run of 8 wins, something like that. So you can't say Oakland's going to lose. They're going to lose. They can't win another one. They can't win another. Anything can happen any given day. Value every single day. It adds up after 162. One more math thing to think about. We're just watching NBA lines for tomorrow. You guys know we're already gauging tomorrow's NBA. And again, that's part of why we're so backed up today. Huge NBA card yesterday, huge NBA card tomorrow. Think of baseball as 162 games. That's the length of the season, not just this one game today. If you're going to bet favorites throughout the season and you're going to average $1.50, laying 150, you've got to win 60% of those bets just to break even. Okay, last year, only 4 teams won 60% of their games. Dodgers, Braves, Orioles, Tampa Bay Rays. On the other hand, if you're betting dogs at an average of plus 150 a game, you've only got to win 40% of your games. The only teams that didn't win 40% of your games last year, Rockies, A's, White Sox, Royals. So do you have a better chance of picking one of the 4 teams that are going to win 60% or better, or one of the 26 teams that are going to win 40% or better? Again, it's all about math. Stick with the value. You can't look. We bet 2 games so far today. We bet 2 underdogs. We might go 0-2. The other team's favorite because they're supposed to win these 2 games, but we see value in these 2 games. So if we go 0-2 today, we're going to make it up at some point as the week or as the month or as the season goes on. You got to stick with the program, stick with the system. You're going to win money at the end of the year. Last year was the absolute worst April and May for underdogs in recorded history. We were stuck like everybody else was because we are mainly dogs, dog bettors. The only guys that were ahead were your squares, your suckers, just betting the favorites every day. We took our lumps early in the season. By the end of the season, it was another year in the plus. And that's where this year will be, just as every baseball season is.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of guys who come back in around 4 MLB season. We did a 35-unit season last year. It was 44 the year before, almost 80 units the last 2 seasons. But like John said, it's going to be peaks and valleys. Buckle up, long season ahead. We're just like these best of teams and the worst of teams going the best of streaks. We're going to be going through those as well. We'll have weeks missing 6, 7 dogs in a row. We'll have weeks hitting 10, 11 dogs in a row. And you're going to see what that value. So crazy swings. It has been profitable in the long run. 2,400 baseball games coming up our way this year in the next 6 months. We average around 100 bets a month, so you can imagine those swings. Let's
marathon, not a sprint. Just keep that in your head. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolute marathon. So we're going to kind of go through the slate of games we have going today. Pretty much every team in action except for a couple of games that got postponed. We'll start with those. And after we touch on the games a little bit, we'll more so go on some of the big changes from the offseason and kind of look where we see them finishing possibly in their division race or potentially in the full AL or NL picture, depending on how things are and depending on the team. 2 games that got postponed. We have the Brewers and the Mets as was supposed to be the top game on the card. Got some rain out there in New York. Both teams going to be in a little bit of a shaky season here. You got this Brewers team who is known for their pitching. Last year, they allowed the least amount of runs in the MLB as a team. They only allowed 647 runs. But 21 Cy Young winner Corbin Burns, as you guys know, he's now going out to Baltimore. And their other solid pitcher, Woodruff, he's going to be missing the season with a shoulder surgery. So 2 great pitchers, 2 of your best pitchers in all baseball, gone from Milwaukee. They have some bats they lose as well. They bring in Hoskins, who knows how he's going to look, missed the entire year in Philly. And then we have this Mets team who has 14, I believe at this moment, it might have increased. I know they just signed another guy, 14 guys who expire after this season. They had all their purchases last year. Verlander, Scherzer, Tommy Pham, you name it, sold it all at the deadline, and now they have a bunch of 1-year contracts. They're going to have another big offseason next year. So they're a little bit transition year, the Mets. Both these teams really are transition years, and I would expect that to correlate to kind of where they're at in the standings. I mean, I think we're looking at about 3rd and 4th place teams here, both in their respective divisions.
I think that's exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at a Met team here, still paying the contracts of Scherzer and Verlander from last year. And their best pitcher, that returning Senga, he's going to start the year on AIL. Not a great start. Quintana was supposed to open today, and he was banged up all year. Only made a handful of starts, 10 starts, whatever he made. They'll be in the middle of the pack in the East. No challenge to the 2 best teams. We'll talk about them in a second in the East, Atlanta and Philly. And Milwaukee, I don't even see them in the top 3. They'll be lucky if they get ahead of the surging Pirates, who I think maybe make a little step up. So 4th or 5th place for the Pirates. They just lost too much. For the Brewers, they just lost too much pitching.
Yep, and this next matchup, which also got rained out, Braves at Philly. We were supposed to have a hell of a pitching matchup. Going to have to wait for that going on tomorrow. We can just talk, though, as far as the season-long projections with these 2 teams. I mean, it's been the same story the last 2 seasons. They pretty much bring back very, very similar rosters. A couple of tweaks here and there. Like I said, Hoskins gone. Didn't even play last year for Philly. Was a part of that 22 team that went to the World Series. And Atlanta, coming off the most wins in the MLB last year, the most runs, the best batting average, the most home runs, and they pretty much bring that entire star-studded lineup back. I mean, the big question with Atlanta, are they going to be able to stay healthy? I mean, last year, they were so healthy. Me and John kept talking, when are they going to rest guys? When are they going to rest guys? When are they going to rest guys? They went the first 3 or 4 months without anybody taking a rest day. Top of the order, I mean, really, everyone was healthy. Acuna and Olsen, obviously the 2 main bats that did a lot of damage. It's hard to say Phillies won't win this division. They are the better roster, and they seem to play better in the regular season. I don't know. Braves, sorry. Don't know if Braves will be able to stay as healthy as they did last year, so that's a concern I have. I do think there's a little bit of value here on Phillies to win the division at plus 300. Not necessarily going to go out and bet it just because their recipe's work. They want that wild card spot. They're ready to go in the playoffs. They're a team built for October, but we're looking pretty much the same 2 teams from last year.
Same 2 teams. I think it's the same result. Pencil the Braves in for 100 wins.
Nope.
Pencil the Phillies in for 90. But as we know, it's when the playoffs come that start. I don't think that, like I said, there's nobody else in the East to challenge them. You've got Mets, Miami, Nationals. None of those 3 teams are going to challenge the 2 top dogs But again, Philly's still far off from where Atlanta is. Atlanta's got the better roster. They'll win the division unless you look. Everything we talk is, of course, without a catastrophe injury. Acuna gets hurt, you change the whole thing. But for the same part, we can say that about Bryce Harper. So again, with everybody staying healthy for the year, I expect pretty much the same results. And then we're back into the playoffs. And you guys know what Philly did to Atlanta last year. Before we get started, let's talk about that real quick. That bye was a disaster for all the top teams. And we talk about rest versus rust, and that goes for everything. That goes for football. We had a game last night that we saw. As a matter of fact, we actually had the loser at a halftime bet. Orlando Magic were facing the Golden State Warriors. They had 3 days of rest. And they came out absolutely horrible. What did Golden State get off to? What kind of start? I mean, they were flying.
Up 16 after the first. The Magic shot 3 for 22 in the first quarter.
And so, Draymond Green goes and gets himself thrown out as he usually does. Kuminga was already out. Golden State back-to-back, 4th and 6. So we just figured the rush should wear off by the second half. But so again, this is the old argument of rest versus rust. And you saw all 4 teams that took byes last year in Major League Baseball, 3 getting knocked out. So we'll see. I believe they've got to tweak that. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, Atlanta in first place, Philly in second, both teams in the playoffs.
We got Nationals and Reds as the top game of the card going on today. You have a pretty good solid pitching matchup in this one. These 2 teams last year were kind of 2 of our 3 most profitable teams. We were betting on Nats a lot, the Reds a lot, and anyone who's been with us the last 2 years, you guys know we've had a lot of tickets on Baltimore. Pretty sure we're going to be losing out on volume on Baltimore. It's not a secret anymore. Nope. They're one of the top teams in baseball. So that we're going to maybe be finding a new team in that realm. But as far as this game, we're giving out the free bet. I mean, yeah, we'll give out the free bet. It's probably going to start by the time you guys see this. We are on Washington on this game. Josiah Gray, as you guys might know, love backing him on the road. 2.97 road ERA last year. Frankie Montez going for Cincinnati. First off, I thought it was weird he's getting the start. I thought it would be Hunter Green or Abbott, one of their 2 young guns who they want there long term. Guess they're going to go with Montez, coming off the shoulder surgery. Wouldn't expect much from him. As far as this game specifically, Nats, they won 6 straight trips in Cincy. Road team won all 7 games last year. As far as the season outlook, road team. Both these teams get it done on the road.
Yeah, that's what we said in our video we gave out already. Matchup favors the road team. Both teams won more games on the road last year than they did at home. You guys should know the story of Gray, just a better pitcher on the road. Montes, 1 1/3 innings the entire year last year. Nothing in there tells me that they should be a big enough favorite over the Nationals. As far as our bet is on the Nationals plus 135. As far as the season, Nats they're gonna wind up right where they wound up last year, last place in the East. But they're gonna win their share of games, and they do. I believe it's the last few years that they've won more road games than they have at home. They play well on the road. For the Reds, they'll be in the race. I think they'll be in the race. Cardinals, Cubs, and Cincy. How much will they get out of all those young pitchers they brought up last year? Will they take that next step up? Because that's what held them back last year. We made a lot of money with the Reds, as Ben said. We did it with the hitting, with the bats. Abbott came up. He was unbelievable. And they kind of caught up to his stuff. So will Abbott, Ashcraft, will Hunter Green, will they take that next step? Montes, wild card. But, hey, if I'm going to take plus 135 with a pitcher that gets the job done on the road against the wild card, I'm going to take that every time. So I see Cincy possibly challenging for that Central Division. Nationals, they'll be holding up the rear in the East. But for today, we like the Nationals plus 135.
Yeah, just as far as some roster moves on these 2 teams, I mean, Washington, just a couple of vet pieces they plugged in there. Joey Gallo, Nick Senzel, guys just to fill up innings and at-bats throughout the season. And Cincinnati, obviously, Joey Votto no longer there. They're bringing Candelario, who had a career year last year. First time hitting over 20 bombs as well. So like that piece in that lineup, but hitting was the issue last year, like John said. It's going to come down to that pitching staff that was streaky as hell. Lodolo, Abbott, Hunter Green, and Ashcraft, now rounded out by Montez, one of the streakiest pitching staffs we saw all of last year. So I think that NL Central is probably the toughest toss-up division between St. Louis, Chicago, and Cincy. And we'll get into it more once we get to those other teams.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Besides the AL West, because the AL West, look, you almost have to say Houston's going to win it because they win it every year. But it's Houston, Texas, Seattle, that could be a little bit of race. But I'll agree with you that St. Louis, Cubs, Cincy, the rest of them, I don't see Atlanta getting challenged. Like I say, I feel they're 10 games better than Philly. Dodgers, it should be a runaway freight train. Yankees and Baltimore, I think that's going to be a good one, and then a lot's going to depend on Cole's health. Minnesota, by default, I feel is the winner in the AL Central. But let's go on from there.
Yeah, so next matchup, we have Cardinals at the Dodgers. This is going to be Nicholas versus Glasnow. Glasnow had a decent start over there in Korea, 2 runs in 5 innings. Did have an issue with the walks, 4 walks in that game. International games, I always take those with a grain of salt, much different feel. And then you got Nicholas, who actually has pretty good numbers against the Dodgers in his career. 4 career starts against them. 3 of them were quality starts. One of those quality starts was last year. It was a win in St. Louis. As far as his direct matchup history, Dodgers, big favorite for good reason, but obviously not this big of a favorite. Can't make the line this high for what should be a competitive Cardinals team this season. And if you look at the matchup history, Dodgers 11-2 the last 13 meetings in LA. You guys are going to, if you tune into this podcast for the next 4 or 5 months, we're going to probably say this 100 times. You can only bet against the Dodgers in this game. The price, you can't win money on the season over betting that much juice on the line, and it's too much vig to play.
So, again, we'll go back to the math. The Dodgers are expected, their win total is, I believe, 103.5.
Yep.
When you're a 200 favorite, if you're going to lay 200 every day, you've got to win 108 of 162 games. So today we're looking at the Dodgers anywhere from 235 to 245 over a St. Louis Cardinal team that's expected to challenge, if not win, the Central Division with a decent pitcher. How are you going to make money with that? At this level, you're talking about they need to win 100 team games just to make your break-even point. So again, think about it over the period of time. You can't just say one game. Dodgers they're going to have a baked-in. We're going to use this term a lot during the course of the year. Overlay. In other words, the books, they're going to make you pay the price for betting the Dodgers every day. It's going to be an overlay. There'll be an extra 20 cents in there. Same thing, you're going to want to bet against the A's every day. They know you want to bet against the A's every day. There's going to be a built-in price. That's why they're going to have a little extra value. So another overlay here as far as the two teams. Like I said, Dodgers, I don't see a challenge. San Fran made themselves better. San Diego, look, you lost Soto, but they did underperform last year, so maybe they get back to 500. But just nobody's going to give the Dodgers any kind of issue. The only issue the Dodgers could give them is themselves. And let's talk about Ohtani a little bit. This is not the way you want to start off your season. They go to Korea. Their prized pitching pickup gets annihilated in 1 inning, and they come home with a nightmare of a gambling scandal. Whether he gambled, whether he didn't, whether he's just bailing the guy out, he didn't know it all. It's a problem. It's a distraction. We're going to be taking the Cardinals today for something, even if it's a half a unit, and we're going to be against the Dodgers a lot. If you don't have the stomach for it, bye-bye.
Yeah, don't tune in.
if you're going to be looking to bet the Dodgers every day, you guys are following the wrong guy.
Yeah, season outlook, we're not stupid. We know the Dodgers are winning over 100 games. We know this division belongs to them. As far as the Cardinals, and we just said the NL Central is going to be an interesting race, they're coming off their worst year since 2007. They underperformed beyond belief last season. They were 28th in runners left on base last season. And they bring in, pitching was the major issue. You had Wainwright in his final year. Horrible, didn't work, got a few starts out of him. And then you had a bunch of guys up and down. You had Flaherty, who was okay here and there. Then they deal him at the deadline. So bunch of issues pitching-wise, which they go and fix with some of the oldest dudes in the league. Sonny Gray was coming off a great season, injured for the start of this one.
Doesn't give up any home runs, Gray.
Yep. Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn's the opposite. I think he gave up the most home runs last year, but they're the only pitching staff without a pitcher under 30. What's good is you pretty much know what you're going to get. You got vets in the locker room. As long as they stay healthy, you kind of have your expectations for them throughout the year. Just can they stay healthy, and how ugly is that going to get? So St. Louis, really, I don't know how it's going to look having the oldest pitching staff in baseball. It could work out in their favor. It could be horrendous.
I would expect in the early going that they would be okay. It's how are the dog days of summer going to treat these older guys getting into July and August? St. Louis notoriously hot in the summertime on the turf there, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, for today, again, the value's there. If we're going to take, let me touch on this too. So if you're a member now, and your only places that you could bet, we should have led with this, is MGM, is DraftKings, is FanDuel, and you're betting into 20-cent lines, or at DraftKings right now, they've got Dodgers. You've got a lay 245, and your take back is 200. We don't bet into places like that. That's all I can say. Wow. Really can't expand on that. But what I can say is offshore sports books, there are places right now where we can get take back plus 218. So when you have 45-cent spread, you can't beat that. That's why DraftKings will be successful. So for as good as DraftKings is for the basketball, as they come up a day ahead of time, very tough to get the numbers that we get. We'll talk about what the last game of the night, basically, that we bet, and the line is already 25 cents different. So you're not going to get the same numbers at those. But if you don't have an offshore sports book, you're not going to see a lot of the numbers that we're taking. And those pennies add up, and that I can tell you. So we see plus 218 right now at Sports 411. Plus 211 at Pinnacle, plus 210 at Bet Online. So there's all 210 and plus in a lot of other places where you guys are only going to see DraftKings plus 200, Play MGM plus 200. So again, I just want to get you guys used to the numbers. Don't be blowing up the DMs. Well, I don't see that number. What we're going to do is tell you as soon as we make a bet what we bet it at and how many units we're betting. The rest is up to you. But again, we'll be on the Cardinals today, not at plus 200, but at plus 2 and change.
Yep, guys. And as at any sport, make sure you guys are shopping around the global market. Best line you can get possible. We can't exactly give any detailed specific books for technicalities, but if you guys have any questions about that, don't understand it, Google about dime lines, 10-cent lines in MLB. Google which books will have those, and that'll be a good place to start. Next matchup, we got Giants down in San Diego, a couple of your other NL West teams. The NL West is good. I mean, really, head to toe, except for Colorado. San Diego very underperformed last season. I'm expecting them to be a bit better this year. The pitching, a big question mark. Obviously, they lose Blake Snell, the Cy Young, but also they lose Michael Wacha, so that's a concern. And you lose the league leader
on base.
Yeah, there we go. Walks. Wow, that was a tongue twister. Sorry, guys. Soto. So he's gone. So you lose a lot, but they underperformed. They were just one of those teams last year. Their run differential was 8th in the MLB, yet their record, they were down by the 20 range. So they have a lot of room to grow. And I think that's going to balance out with some of the loss. San Francisco, I love the off-season San Francisco had. They grabbed Soler, led the Marlins in homers last year. He had 36. They go and get Jung-Hoo Lee out from Korea, KBO MVP. I believe he had 340 in his career over in Korea. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of an adjustment. But, hey, you're putting the bat on the ball. Good things are going to happen. And, not only do they bring in Blake Snell, but they're also grab Robbie Ray, a little bit of a test there. We'll see what comes back with him with his health issues. I mean, San Francisco, they look like they could have one of the better rotations in this division, which says a lot because Arizona and Dodgers are absolutely star-studded with pitching.
Yeah, and San Fran. Look, as most of the parks are in the West, L.A., San Fran, and San Diego, all pitchers' ballparks. San Francisco, as far as I could see, them and Arizona are going to battle for second, and that's probably going to be a tough battle because you're going to need to get into that playoffs in that spot. You're not winning that division. Even if Ohtani goes down, the Dodgers just have too much. So San Fran, I think them and Arizona, they'll be battling for the 2 spot. I think San Diego drops back. Probably to the 4th spot. I see them in the 4th spot, and I see them battling to just be a 500 team because that is a pretty tough division, as Ben said, except for the Rockies. As far as today's game, real tough game. San Diego has won these matchups. Darvish, he only lasted 3 innings and change. He's got his first start out of the way. Webb just got annihilated in spring training, especially his last outing. So I just can't jump on it there. Tough game, first game of the season. I see it right where it's supposed to be. Basically a pick'em game. I make San Fran the better team. I make Webb the better pitcher. I just think pick is a fair number at San Diego.
Yeah, lean to this game is definitely to the Giants for me. I mean, you look at some of the career-long splits here. Webb against the Padres, 2.25 ERA, 2.50 ERA in his career. Darvish versus San Fran, over 6. And that coming back from Korea, I don't like that. That first start back over to international. So lean to San Francisco here, but we need a bit more on that number. Look, some dog money. It could be one of those instances. You have the road team goes in the road San Diego, top of the first, they don't score, and you're going to have those live odds go from them being a PK. So you're going to be looking at, San Fran plus 125, plus 130 in the bottom of the first for anyone who wants to look at that angle. Next matchup, we got Pirates at Miami. Miami, who came up with a pretty good season last year. They had their best record since 2009. They went 84-78. Pittsburgh, they were red hot in April. We were on them a lot early last year, and they died off like they typically do. Another 10 games below 500 season for the Pirates. As far as the pitching matchup going on today, pretty solid. Keller versus Luzardo. Luzardo was terrific last year, especially at home. 2.99 ERA in home starts. Keller just very hit or miss. Some days he'll look like one of the best pitchers in baseball. Some days he's going to look like Adam Wainwright on his retirement tour. So really it's kind of a matchup dependent thing for Keller. What games, when he's in a rhythm, when he's not. In this game specifically, would lean to Miami at home. I mean, Luzardo just terrific there. Pittsburgh, not one of your better road teams. And season-long outlook on this team, on these two teams. The Central is going to be a 3-team race, like we said before. Cardinals, Cubs, Reds. I think any of those 3 teams have a legitimate chance. And then as far as Miami, they're just playing one of the toughest divisions in baseball. Not as bad this year. I think they'll still be better than the Mets and the Nationals. They're just nowhere near the Phillies or Braves either.
No, I think they lost a lot, Miami. I think them and the Mets will battle for that 3-4 spot. Nationals are obviously the 5th spot. Losing Soler, that's supplied a lot of power, and Alcantara, the pitcher, 2 years removed from basically a Cy Young year. That's just going to be too much for Miami, and I think they overachieved just a little bit. That comes back. That regresses a little bit. I think they'll be hard pressed to be a 500 team. As far as today's game, the money has gone on the short. This game opened a little higher, about 130, 133 was the opening number. So the smart money is on Keller and on the Pirates today. I made it a little lower. I leaned Pirates, just not enough to make it a full bet. First series especially, we're going to watch who's coming out hot, what teams are hitting. But if Keller's on, this will be Keller's game. The problem, Ben said, a couple of outings. When he's bad, he's real bad. Luzardo, solid. Expect a good game. I think that the line right now is exactly where it should be. There was a little value in Pirates at plus 122. I don't see any more right now. Miami, like I said, 3rd or 4th. Pittsburgh, I think they'll challenge Milwaukee for 4th, but it's Milwaukee and Pittsburgh, I feel, going to be 4th and 5th in the Central. Pittsburgh added a couple of veteran pitches. I don't know that that's what they should. Why are you adding a veteran pitcher to challenge for 4th? Yep. Go get a couple of young guys and stay in 5th, but build them up. So I don't know what they're trying to do. Yes, they'll be a little better this year. Maybe make a 3, 4, 5 game win, add on to what they did last year. But long term, I don't see where that's going.
Then we got the rest of the NL West here. Rockies down in Arizona. Rockies, as you should know, abysmal on the road. They were the NL worst team last year.
Till the playoffs. Oh, no, Rockies. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Rockies. On the road, they were the MLB worst, 22-59. As you guys know, Coors Field definitely gives them a hitter's advantage. The better that lineup is, the better they will be. They're never going to be known for their pitching. They just can't be no good free agent pitcher is going to be dumb enough to sign there because, they want the more money, the lower ERA, this and that. So they got to do it through the draft. They're never going to have good pitching. And they still don't have good pitching. So that's a problem when you're trying to win, especially on the road. And that's going to be a problem for them today. Freeland versus Gallant. I like Freeland. He is their, version of an ace, but their ace had a 5.03 ERA last season. So that's problematic. And he's actually one of those guys that's not much better outside of Coors. Kind of weird. So he did have some good starts in the spring. He did have some good outings against Arizona, but he's going up against Gallen today, who was just a stud last season, and he's been absolutely dominant against Colorado. In his career, he is 6-2, 2.45 ERA and 13 starts against them. Was roughed up in the spring, but expect big things from Gallen. Obviously we talked about dog or nothing. I got no interest in the dog in this one. Arizona coming off a monster season. Shout out to their front office. They didn't get complacent. They had the same record as the Marlins, 84-78. They take that wild card bid and they make it all the way to the World Series. And then they go get two of the best lefty free agent pitchers in Rodriguez, and they pick up Montgomery, who led Texas to the World Series against them. And they had some good bats. They had Suarez, who in the last 5 years is only behind Judge in home runs over the last 5 years. It's ridiculous. And then Jock Peterson as well. So shout out to Arizona front office. I think they bought themselves an extra 6 to 10 wins there in the offseason, and they could be looking in the mid-90s win totals.
I think they did a great job. And like I said, I expect them to fight San Fran for the number 2 spot in the West. Colorado, there's no question. Not only are they the worst team in the West, they're the worst team in the National League. It's not even close. They could be the worst team in baseball. Look, it depends on Oakland. Oakland is projected to be the worst team. Colorado's close. White Sox are pretty abysmal also. But can't back Colorado on the road. We will bet a lot of Colorado at home. Rockies are a team. They build their team for their ballpark. And there's no team that I have a bigger difference between their home value and their road value. And that's what it's all about. We'll talk about this. Every team, every sport, whether it's NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, teams play different at home and they do on the road. And once you start reading our previews, you'll understand when you see the trends. And again, like the Rockies, this team, they're abysmal on the road, but you will find at home, we're going to get there. They're out of 81 games. If the Rockies win 35-36 of those home games, being a dog at home most of the time, there's going to be a profit there. So yes, I know a lot of guys. I'll save you now. Oh, the Rockies again. Yes, the Rockies at home again, but on the road, don't want no part of them. Arizona, solid team. They're going to build off of last year, as Ben said. This team's going to be better than they were last year. They've added to it, and they're going to be in the playoffs, no question about it. My playoff teams, you got Atlanta, Philly, St. Louis, Dodgers, San Diego, and the next one's the question mark. But those are the teams that I absolutely expect to make it. San Fran, Arizona, giving it a shot also.
Yeah, baseball's a weird sport as far as front office spending. You can have teams like the Angels and the Mets where they spend a shit ton of money and they do it poorly, or you have teams like Arizona or Atlanta. You could say the Dodgers, the way they waited off, they could have re-signed Trey Turner, et cetera. So shout out to those front offices doing it right. Arizona being one of those. And in this next matchup,
hold up. If you're getting bored, stay with us. We got one more free bet, and it's the end. You got to wait for the end. It's the last game of the night.
We got Angels at Baltimore next. Speaking of front offices, two extremes here. Baltimore, they have just absolutely killed it. A little bit disappointed in them, though, because Jackson Holliday going to be starting the years in the minors just for that contract eligibility BS. I think they expect to bring him up in May. They lose their closer, Bautista. He's going to be missed this year with Tommy John. Get Kimbrel to replace him. We'll see how that goes. And the Angels. What are we going to get out of this Halos team? A lot of young pitching that needs to get better. We'll see if they actually do. They got Sandoval going today up against Burns. You guys know the story with him in Milwaukee, just absolutely dominant. So excited to see him this season with Baltimore. Wouldn't expect the best of starts in his first year. He's had some slow starts in the last couple of years. We'll see if that continues. I will say, I think there's going to be some value on the Angels this season. Usually the last couple of years, a little bit of an overlay with the Shohei Ohtani, the biggest name in baseball, this and that. I think there's a bit of an overreaction. Yes, Ohtani was really key for this team. He was the MVP of the AL, but they were a bad team anyway. So I think the amount of overreaction as far as the odds go, we're going to see some good value on the Angels this season. Who knows what we get out of Rendon? Missed 100 games all 4 years. If he could be somewhat healthy, if Trout could be somewhat healthy, there's worse lineups in baseball than the Angels, that's for sure.
Yeah, look, the Angels won't even be a 500 team. But again, we're looking at day one, and you're looking at Orioles and Burns already a 185 favorite. Big number. So there will be some value. There's actually a little bit of value in them today. Again, not enough to make me jump on the Angels with Sandoval on the mound.
Yep.
But yeah, Burns, Orioles, Orioles were 2 years ago when we first started taking a look at the Orioles when they were the worst team in the AL East.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember that AL East is the best division for the past how many years? So we could see them making their move, and we just absolutely killed it with the Orioles the last couple of years. Again, that cat is out of the bag, and as you can see today, Game 1, they're $1.85, even higher at 192, and even DraftKings at even 200 at other spots. Orioles, they're going to challenge the Yankees. That's going to have to do with Cole.
Yep.
Is this injury more than they're leading on to? Is this a couple of week thing? Or is this a couple of month thing? Or is it worse? Cole, that's just Cy Young from last year. You don't have him. Look, this game's about pitching. We talked to you about the Steve Carlton stat. So you can have all the Sotos and Judges and you've got to have that stopper in there. Today they're going to start with Cortez as their day one opening pitcher. He pitched one game after May, after they shut him down.
Yep.
So, but getting back to the Orioles, they'll be battling with the Yankees for this one. Health, as it has in every sport, got to do with it. The Angels, some value, big number, just not big enough to take it. If this game is going a little higher, we'd have to make a little play on the Angels, though.
Told you guys earlier how much money we made on Baltimore last year in the last couple of years, and how the top game, Nationals, Reds, other two teams we were looking at. 2023, the three most profitable teams in baseball: Baltimore, Washington, Cincy. There's a reason we were on them a bunch. They were mispriced the whole season, all season long. Betting on those three teams every single game, you would have ended up 57 units on the season, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, you can't bet them every game. We were trying to catch the right spots. But that's baseball. You got to find the right teams with the value.
Value.
So we got to find our new Baltimore. They've been riding it for 2 years. I think we're cooked on that value.
Yeah.
We'll be looking for it. But as far as the season long, Baltimore, like John said, with the Yankees, they're going to be right there with them. It's going to be a fascinating race in the AL East. Maybe Toronto in there as well. We'll get to it. Detroit at Chicago. A couple of your boring AL Central teams here. Chicago finally committed to the fire sale, getting rid of everybody. They started to at the deadline last year. Didn't quite move everyone. They didn't get rid of Cease. And then obviously in the offseason, they finally make those final moves. So the only guy to really bring it back with value is Luis Robert. Outside of that, this is a disgusting Chicago White Sox team. They'll be down there with the A's and the Rockies as far as a couple of the worst teams in baseball. Detroit, they were pretty solid. They had some profitable. We bet on Detroit a lot.
Yep.
A lot of those home games. They were the
Especially with Rodriguez.
Yep, especially with Rodriguez. They were the fifth most profitable team in baseball last year. Any of our members or longtime viewers know we're going to be on the Tigers a lot again this year. And you can't bet them in this one, though. Not looking to lay 160, 170 on Detroit with Skewball on the mound, who's solid pitcher, solid against the White Sox. Definitely is a pitching matchup in this game today. Just can't do it. Season-long read on the Tigers. I think they're going to be a bit more competitive in the Central this year, but looking at a pretty similar standing point, maybe a couple of games below 500, pretty similar to last year.
Detroit opened as a 173 road favorite. When I first saw that, I'm like, is this a mistake? Look, Detroit, actually, another team played better on the road last year than home. For guys that are checking out my ratings, say, no, I must have made a mistake. No, some teams are better on the road. That's what the facts say. Detroit have been one of those teams. And if you guys, let me give you guys a heads up. If you're looking at the Houston home and away, and you're like, there's no way. There is a way. Look how bad Houston was. Not even in the regular season, but that continued into the playoffs. Win on the road, can't win at all. But getting back to Detroit, they played better on the road. We won a lot of money with this team on the road, but I couldn't make them a 173 favorite. But I have no interest in this is a pitching. This is what we call a pitching mismatch. Skubal against, is it Crochet?
Crochet.
I don't want Crochet going for me. White Sox again. White Sox, Rockies. They're the two worst teams in the league with the Oakland A's. The money came for the White Sox. The sharps are always going to take those big, heavy home dogs. I just wasn't interested in this one. Tigers, I think they're going to fight with the Indians for second place. I think this is the Twins division to win. White Sox, as I said, they're last in this division. Could be battling the A's and the Rockies for the worst team in baseball.
We have Yankees at Houston next. Shout out to the MLB schedule makers giving us a nice rivalry here. We got Braves and Phillies this weekend. Yankees, Astros, another great one in that. As far as season-long outlook, Houston Astros, 6 straight division titles. I have no reason to believe that will change. I know some of the guys a couple of weeks ago were asking, if this is the Astros fall off. What fall off? I mean, yeah, sure, a couple of those guys getting older, and Altuve and Bregman. So much youth, though. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Jeremy Pena. I mean, they got a lot of youth in that lineup, and in the pitching as well. I mean, obviously you have an older guy like Verlander, who's still back in Houston, but JP France, younger guy. I mean, Valdez not too old in the prime still. Javier, same situation. Houston's going nowhere. They're still going to be in a bit of a down year last year, and maybe they'll be similar, not quite as elite, 100 wins, but in that mid-90s to lower 90s range, absolutely for the Astros. And the Yankees, this Yankees team, I mean, obviously Garrett Cole is a big part of it. He's the best pitcher in baseball last year, led in, half the pitching categories. Need him healthy. Hopefully he comes back around May or June. I like to get the go. Got Stroman. Most importantly, though, the lefties, Verdugo, Soto, Grissom. I mean, they just needed lefties. They were so right-handed heavy in that lineup with the short porch. And Soto, I expect big things on a contract year. Keep in mind, it's not like basketball where you sign 3 to 5 year deals and you keep resigning. Baseball, you lock into one good contract in your career. You're locking into a 10, 12-year deal, and that's your payday. So these baseball players are usually big years on the career years.
So this Yankees-Astros, again, as Ben already told you, and I told you, it's all about Garrett Cole. We know the bats are there. The Yankees had no bats last year, especially when Judge was out. For our members, they know we were putting the stats in there, how bad they were with Judge out. Well, now you got Judge back in the lineup. Now you're bringing Soto over. Rizzo, who missed the end part of the year. Don't forget about Rizzo. You brought over some other bats, Verdugo, as you said, Grisham. The Yankees could be very dangerous. Remember, historically what lefties do at Yankee Stadium. Lefty bats do at Yankee Stadium. You just need the pitching. When you're starting off with Cortez as your opening day pitcher, let me throw this at you. His 2 final spring starts, he gave up 9 runs off 15 hits in 7 1/3 innings. I get it, it's just spring, but here's a guy that needs a spring. He made 1 start. It happened to be against the Astros since May last year. So when a pitcher like that comes to spring, he has to do well in spring. There's the only money that's shown up, a little money for the Yankees, not pouring in, but the line has come down a little bit. And that's because Valdez, who we used to call Mr. Quality Start, just you go out there to a quality start, tailed off at the end of the year. Horrible playoffs. Let's see if he could bounce back. If it's Yankees or nobody, but for me, just not enough room. Couldn't want to back Cortez in this spot. As far as the outlook, Yankees will battle Baltimore. If Cole is back, Houston, it stands to lose. You're the champ till somebody beats the champ, and that's who Houston is in the American League.
Yep, dog or nobody there. We'll see what goes on in both those pitchers' debuts. Coming off a rough 23, both those guys need to bounce back. We got Twins at Kansas City. Twins, your reigning champs. Kansas City, your reigning AL Central losers. They're coming off a second worst in MLB last year. 56-win season. Absolutely brutal there for the Royals last year. And as far as, season outlook for these two teams, I mean, obviously Minnesota, the favorite to win the division for good reason. Good pitching staff. They do lose Sonny Gray, who gave them some great outings last year. Still one of your better staffs in baseball. And then as far as the lineup goes, they had a bunch of guys plugging in and out, a bunch of injuries. Only Carlos Correa got over 500 ABs. We'll see if that continues on this season. I'm really, really high on Kansas City. So are the books. I'm sure some of you guys have heard me say this by now if you've been tuning into the lives or these episodes. The books have them at about a 17-game increase, and I don't mind it. I mean, I think this pitching staff has a chance to be elite, similar to they were back in that 2015 season when they had a good year. Watch out for them. Reagan's going today. He could be a sneaky Cy Young threat. Looked really good in the back end of last season. We'll see if that continues. I mean, him, Waka, and Singer at their best are some of your better pitchers in baseball. Granted, that's at their best. Their worst can get shaky. So we'll see. The upside with KC is scary, and I think they could contend in this division, but Twins are the favorite for a reason.
I'm not as high on KC as Ben is. I totally get it with the young arms. Can they still stay healthy all year? I don't feel like they have the bats outside of Bobby Witt Jr. I don't see what else they have offensively. As far as this game and Minnesota's it should win the division, and Lopez is a big reason why. He started off last year like a beast. I expect him to do the same. He pitches real good against KC. What do we get here from? Last year, tied for third with 234 strikeouts in the playoffs. 2-0, 0.71 ERA. Did real well. Pitched real well on the road. 3 starts against KC last year. Won all 3 of them, 2.66. So to me, you see that Reagan's, and you think KC home dog. That's usually what things that we're looking at. I just don't see it here against Lopez and the Twins. I got Twins a better team, and I'm not going to give Reagan's much of an edge over Lopez for this one. I think the price is right. We stayed off this game.
This next matchup, we got a couple of these AL East teams. Toronto at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I mean, just a terrific start last year. Completely fell off, and they had issue after issue. No McClanahan. He's going to be out with a surgery all season long. Obviously, they lose Glass now. Springs, he's still out. He's not going to return until midseason. So a team that usually, I mean, just dominates as far as the pitching staff goes, play small ball offensively, they lose it. Offensively last year, they were 4th in runs and homers. They were right up there, top of the league. The next thing you know, you lose Wander Franco, you lose Rayleigh, you lose Bethencourt, you lose some key bats. I mean, this team just – Tampa Bay always finds a way. Shout out to their front office. We were talking about it before. Some of these front offices just absolutely kill it in baseball. And this is a team that doesn't spend. The only time they gave, a 10-figure contract was to Wander Franco, who obviously is not going to be on the team anytime soon. So it's interesting to see with this Rays team. I think they'll be competitive. Just don't see them up there with Toronto, Baltimore, or the Yankees. And Toronto, what are we going to get out of them this season? The pitching's there. The lineup's there. They had a lot of career worst years from some of these guys. I mean, the 2 key ones, Manoah, who was supposed to be a Cy Young favorite last year, and Vladdy Guerrero, who's in the MVP race, MVP candidate preseason. So if those 2 guys can get back to being one of the best hitters and pitchers in baseball, then Toronto's a threat to Baltimore and the Yankees. If not, I think we're looking at the same mid-pack wildcard team.
Toronto, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, as Ben said, they've been putting it together for years. Nobody did that bullpen game better than they did. They're going to have to do a lot more of it. They lost Glass now and McClanahan. I mean, I don't know where you're going to go to make that up. You get the whole Franco Foss. They're going to be struggling. I think they struggle this year. I think they'll be lucky to win play 500 ball. Toronto, I think, is a little better than that. Again, they're going to have to rely on that pitching. They lost Chapman. So I think Toronto is your 3rd place team. So I think it's a battle between the Yankees and Orioles. I think Tampa Bay is your 4th place team. I can't see the Red Sox stepping up to take over Tampa Bay. They just don't have the pitching. They do have the bats, and they do hit much better at home. Another ballpark, Fenway Park, that you need. That's why I laugh when they talk about home in a way that there's no difference. But anyway, every ballpark's their ballpark. This particular game, Barrios, like the way he pitched. Eflin, you got to call him the ace by default for Tampa Bay. This line is climbing a little too high now. I'm watching it right now. It's 3 o'clock now as we shoot the podcast. This is a 4:10 game. This game is now up to as high as 145. I mean, DraftKings got it 148. But again, the take back is 24 cents different. I don't know how they expect anybody to bet baseball when there's a 24-cent different on what you can lay and what your take back is. And once again, guys, just to remind you, that's going to be a problem. We're going to only tell you what we bet the game at, how much we bet the game at, and give you the preview. But if you're taking 10 cents first every game, that's going to be a tough situation. Anyway, Toronto, for me, it's Toronto and nobody in this game. I think Tampa Bay, look, they're great at home last year. That's because of the start that they got off. This team, after the All-Star break, was a different team. After losing McClanahan, Franco was a different team. And I think we're going to have a team that's going to struggle this year. I'd be Toronto and nobody in this one.
Then we have Guardians at Oakland. It's your worst offensive teams last year. You have Guardians, who were last in homers, 27th in runs scored. As far as Oakland, they were last in runs scored and hitting, just 223 as a team. As everyone knows, A's are historically bad. They were last in runs scored, 2nd worst in runs given up. Only one worse was the Rockies, who have Coors Field and A's at Pitchers Ballpark. So you have a lot of issues here on these 2 teams offensively. And as far as the pitching goes, that's kind of the upside, both sides here. I mean, Cleveland 2 years ago in that playoff run they had to win the division, elite pitching staff. They had a lot of injuries last year, which is kind of a blessing looking onto this season. You got a lot of guys like Logan Allen or Bibby, who had to spend a lot of time getting some new starts as rookies because you had guys like McKenzie and Bieber who were on the IL. So same potential to me as Kansas City. They have potential to be one of the most elite staffs in baseball. It was a health problem last year, and that's going to be the question mark this year. They can have a chance to contend with Minnesota in the division if that pitching can get back to what it was in the 22 season. As far as Oakland, they have some decent pitchers. They have Wood, who's going today, solid veteran starter. Then you got a couple of guys like Blackburn and Sears. So I think they'll be a bit better than last year, but this lineup's anemic. I mean, they were last in runs last year. They're going to be last in runs again this year. Going to be a hard time getting them around the bases there in Oakland.
Two teams that are offensively challenged, to say the least, and you're playing in a pitcher's ballpark. Not a lot of runs scored in Oakland. Bieber missed a good part of last year. He had a pretty decent spring, right, Ben, if I'm remembering correctly?
Yeah, he was great in the spring, 2-0, 1.56, 19 Ks and 17 1/3.
Yeah, so I just don't have the balls to back Oakland, although that's where all the sharp money is. Yeah. This game opened up at 157, and right now you're looking about, call it the consensus, is at 145. So the sharps are on Oakland. I'm not going there. Cleveland was a lot better last year at home. They usually played in the two prior years, played as well on the road as they did at home. Not last year. They were a better home team. Cleveland's another one. Had a lot of injuries last year with the pitching staff. They brought in a lot of young guys, and we got to see, do those guys make that next step up? We'll see what the story is with Cleveland. I don't think they could challenge Minnesota. I think they're right there in that fight for second place. Again, not enough wins to get into the playoffs, but they'll win their share of games. Bieber, when he's on, Bieber could be a real good pitcher. Wood, he's a journeyman. What could you say, man? That's all Oakland signing. I don't want no part of Oakland. I'll bet Oakland when I feel that they're hot or I feel they're going against a cold team. They'll hit their streaks. No, I don't see value in it today, but some of the sharps do. The line is on. The line has only gone down in this one. As far as Oakland, we've already talked about them. Worst team in baseball, projected to be. Maybe they climb up and they're better than Colorado or the White Sox. That's as far as they can go.
We have the last game on the card, and your guys' final.
And this is their last year, right? In Oakland now, is it official? They going to Vegas, or it's still up in the air?
Still up in the air. Still issues with the city of Vegas. Who knows? I mean, Oakland can't do anything right, let alone sign a piece of paper and move the team. We'll see what they figure out. Sorry, not the last game though here, but it is your free bet. Red Sox and Seattle.
Well, so let's not give them that. Let's do the next one first, and then we'll come back to the free bet. We got to make you guys watch the whole podcast.
Yeah, guys. We got the interleague game here. Cubs at Texas. Texas Rangers, your reigning World Series champs. And they could be back and competitive again this year. I absolutely hate the fact they didn't re-sign Montgomery. I think that one is just an absolute mess up. You got a guy who's a workhorse, 6'4", big guy, lefty, absolutely dominated the playoffs, showed up in the biggest moment. And they're going to have a guy in DeGrom who they hope comes back and can be that guy. That's what they hope they get out of DeGrom, but he's just always injured. So we'll see if that happens. The lineup, though, I mean, God, this lineup is so damn good. I mean, they have their health issues. Seager missed a lot of time, or he's starting the year with a question mark if he's going to play tonight. But Texas's lineup's as good as it gets in baseball. I mean, they're up there with the Yankees, the Braves, the Dodgers, of what you expect for a lot of runs. So we'll see with them. And this Cubs team, I mean, this Cubs team last year made a big stride forward. They have some of the best defensive players in baseball. I think that's a bit of their identity. The pitching staff, big question mark. But still, I mean, he had a very competitive season. He's going today. As far as this game specifically, this number feels a bit short here for the World Series champs. Definitely going to be an elite home crowd. I think the cheapest ticket going today is $300, which usually you can get Texas baseball tickets as low as $10. So cheapest ticket today is a big one here for the Rangers. Going to be a rowdy home crowd. Eovaldi, big game. Nate showed up in the playoffs. I expect him to show up on opening day as well. Texas are nobody as far as this game. And as far as their division races, Cubs could be there in the Central. Not who I pick as a favorite, but wouldn't surprise me. And the Rangers, I mean, if they can stay healthy, they're as good as anyone in the West.
Yeah, no, two teams that could absolutely win the division. I think St. Louis just a tinge better than the Cubs, but will that St. Louis pitching, that old pitching staff, will they be able to survive the whole year? Texas, I got to make Houston just a little bit better than them, and the reason is this. Eovaldi had a monster year. I don't know where that came. Eovaldi was always a good pitcher, but he was a monster last year. excuse me, especially in the postseason. Great. He had a great beginning of the year. He tailed off. So you had DeGrom at the beginning of the year. You had Scherzer at some part of the year. Now they brought over Lorenz, and all those three guys aren't starting on the IL. So Texas has got to do it with the bats, and they can do it with the bats. As Ben said, Seager questionable. If he was to play him and Lowe, the first baseman, I would have to make this line a little higher. Steele, who started off phenomenally, he choked it up down the stretch. A nice pitching matchup here. What Steele do we get? What Eovaldi do we get? Does Eovaldi continue to give the games he did a 0 fall off? Texas, I'm going to give the edge on the hitting. Again, two teams that should challenge, but I think it is a little bit of a light number. This game right now sitting at 115 to 118. Expect that number to go up on the Seager info. Would be interested in Texas or nobody in the first one.
And then last set of the night, your guys' final free bet. We got Red Sox at Seattle. First, just as far as the season outlook, Boston, just no pitching. I mean, they go and get their answer to fix the pitching was Lucas Giolito, who's coming off a career worst year. So pitching's still a problem. They lose Sale. I mean, he only gave him a few starts, always hurt. They lose some bats as well. Turner, Verdugo. They lose Paxton. This lineup, when healthy, can do damage. That's the problem, when healthy. So have to wait and see what's going on with them. Boston, it's an all-offensive team. Seattle's kind of the opposite. I mean, they got pitching for days on that Seattle team. Castillo, Kirby, and Gilbert, as good of a three-headed monster as you got in this league. As far as the pitching matchup today, Bayo versus Castillo, that's going to line up into our bet a little bit. This is looking at a Red Sox team offensively, John, that we should be getting some big runs here.
No, the Red Sox will score. They do score more at home. They score more at Fenway Park. What I liked over here, I just think it's a little bit of an overlay. When you have Castillo, one of your better pitchers, no question about it. For beginning of the season, you're not going to see Castillo go deep into the game 7, 8 innings. So the bigger the pitcher margin, the more value you're going to take. I think there's some value here with the Red Sox. Not only do I think there's some value, we took 155 last night. We sent that bet out, and right now you can lay as low as 146 on the game. So that shows you how much value. And this is where the value shows, that closing line value. Now in baseball, we're not going to get every game because there's always difference of opinion. But when you see we're on the same game as all the sharp guys, because again, sharps move the line, not squares. The books will open the Dodgers a little higher, try to suck some money in. They'll get loaded up with Dodger money. They may move it a little bit, but there's no 10, 15 cent moves to dogs that ain't moved by sharp money. So sharps are all over this one. As far as the outlook, we talked about it. Red Sox, could they challenge the Rays for the fourth? They're the worst team in the East. They don't have enough pitching. Bayo, I got to be as their ace again by default because there's just nobody else there, but they can hit. Seattle, opposite. They can pitch. Will they get the hitting? They got great pitching last year. Terrific. Let's see what happens. Again, it's value. Seattle, better team. Castillo, better pitcher, but they're not good enough to not take 155 on this game, and that's what we took. That's our second bet, guys.
Yeah, Seattle had a slow start last year. We'll see if that continues. They really turned it up around July, and we'll wait to see. Hopefully we get a slow start with them tonight. 2 bets so far out for the MLB set of opening day games. Obviously, a lot going on tomorrow. Big NBA card tomorrow. Pretty good MLB card tomorrow as well. Going to try and be back here for that for you guys. Break down those games. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything, we'll be back tomorrow. Go ahead and flood the YouTube comments down below for us. Put those down below. Bit of a longer episode, but that's what you get for a full MLB season preview. You guys disagree with any of our takes? I know you guys love to disagree with us. Go ahead and put those in the comments below.
Let us know. And come right back tomorrow because we do a podcast Monday and Friday. We'll be back tomorrow. Huge NBA card. That's what I'm actually paying attention to as we're trying to shoot this. I've got one bet that I absolutely love in the NBA tomorrow. You're going to want to get that. Members will get that when DraftKings opens up their lines. And hopefully we get some money to make today.
I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe below, and let's make some money.
Let's make some money.